Hi, Darius.
Hello, Rosalind.
Yeah, so glad that we can have this chat and share your stories to everyone today. So maybe just from the start, like how was what did you do before, and like what happened?
That's okay. Cool. No, thanks, Rosalind. Yeah, maybe I can just give you a little background about myself. So before I was a data scientist, I've been working in Singapore at Gojek, and then it was quite an interesting time that I was there. In 2020, I decided to leave, and then I thought that maybe I want to explore something new. Uh, yeah, and then like I think there's like a lot of things happening, and maybe this is the conversation that I do want to share. In 2021, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. It was quite an interesting, in the beginning, I think it was quite like a shocking, not just for me, but also for my family, right? Uh, and and at first I thought that like it's something that, oh, it's cancer, it is deadly, but it is something that like maybe we can handle this. Uh, yeah, and then maybe just like a little background about the cancer itself. I was diagnosed with like stage 4 lung cancer. Stage 4 means that like it's a spread. Luckily, the spread is only within the lung, not outside the lung. It was quite a crazy time because like I think at that time it was during Delta. Uh, I mean, I assume that you guys remember Delta was very scary, right? Luckily for me, I was okay. We were blessed. My family has been very supportive. We are very paranoid about it, but I think like we were okay with that.
Wow, that was very scary to hear, like lung cancer stage 4, and you got it during COVID, during Delta. So that was a double scared there. So like, what did you feel during that time, and what did you do with that? Because maybe like during COVID, it was maybe hard to get treatment or like medication.
Yes, Delta was hard because like suddenly like our options to get medication is very limited, right? Uh, we decided to stay in Jakarta. We decided to get our initial treatment in Jakarta. Maybe I will talk a little bit about the treatment itself and also about my perspective, or at least my emotional uh, uh, feelings when I'm going through that, right? So when I heard about that I had cancer, I thought to myself, it is scary, maybe I might die or things like that. I start panicking. But once the doctor talked to me about the treatment, I thought to myself, maybe I can handle this. The first treatment was horrible. I had chemotherapy. Chemotherapy, I mean, like compared to cancer, cancer is bad. But like, with cancer, the symptom is only coughing. But with chemotherapy, the symptom is like everything else, like nausea, headache, like lack of energy, suddenly, loss of appetite. So there's like a lot of things happening immediately. And I thought to myself, okay, this is bad, but I feel that maybe I am getting better slowly. Uh, it progresses for the next 3 months. Things is going well. However, suddenly like the treatment didn't work anymore. So we were surprised. At that time, I was still stubborn, and I thought to myself, hey, maybe it is something that I can handle. It's just like, in life, when you are faced with problems, sometimes you still try to control things. And that's kind of the feelings that I have. I still try to control things and believing that like, I can handle this. I pray to God, yes, but in a way, even though I pray to God, I don't really surrender everything. I still believe that the medication is there. People are surrounding me, they're supporting me. I think and I can still handle this. But when the treatment didn't work anymore, we decided to find another treatment. And this is when my family, we decided to flew to America. Um, so we went to Stanford Hospital. And then we heard that Stanford Hospital had like one of the best research, and we're very excited about like the treatment that they're going to give to us. 2 months later, after the treatment that we got at Stanford, the tumor didn't shrink. Instead the tumor actually grew double. that was a moment where I realized that, I become hopeless. I felt powerless. Why? Because I was in Indonesia. When the treatment didn't work, I thought to myself, "Oh, treatment is in Indonesia. Of course, it will not work." At that time, I was just thinking in my head. But when I start going to America and hoping to get the treatment in America, that's when I thought, hey, maybe in America I can get the treatment and I will get health. I'll become healthy. But when suddenly the medication that I get from America, like from Stanford Hospital, didn't work, that's when I realized even in America, when they say they have the best doctor, they have the best technology, and they have the best medication, it didn't work. Then when I realized, work, right? So that's a period where I start really looking inside my heart and really understanding what it means to surrender. I think there's like a Bible verse. I think there will be a slides that I will show. The slide is just like Bible verses that has been supporting me throughout. Yeah, so like during that time when I was at my lowest point, when I learned that like the treatment in America didn't work, I was devastated. And then this is the feeling that I had, I thought that I might die. Maybe everything is hopeless. And I read this verse, and this verse was very powerful to me because the feeling that I had during that time is exactly what the verse is saying, right? This is the verse is like in Matthew 26. This is when Jesus is praying before he was going to be captured, and he said something like this: "I am sad to the point of death," and that's exactly what I felt. And then in that prayer, Jesus also said, "God, please take this cup away from me." So that cup away means like the pain. And that's what I felt too. God, I've been going through this treatment. I've been going through cancer. It's only been a year at that time. It was I think the end of 2021. But it was so painful. It was so hopeless that I hope, God, can you just take it away from me? You're God. You are capable of everything. Just take it away from me. But, when I read this verse, it's not just telling me that Jesus can relate to me, but also Jesus is teaching me. Because at the very end, Jesus, instead of forcing God, just say, "It is not my will, but yours." That's the moment when I realized, yes, I am sick. I want God to take care of me, but at the same, I need to surrender. And this is how I surrender. And using Jesus Christ as an example, using Jesus as someone who is a friend who I can relate with, to find comfort. Right? Maybe next slide. Yeah, so throughout that process, after surrendering, I am sad. The treatment has been going up and down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but the feeling of disappointment and fear and confusion is there. But what this verse is helping me is that even though I am sad, I am not consumed. I am not panicking. I'm not going crazy or stressing out because I know that God loves me. And this has been quite powerful for me that I've been holding on to.
Wow, that was a lot. And I mean, it was new to me to just learn how even the best medication in the world sometimes might fail you. And I guess only the Lord that can provide us the true healing and the true help. But I think I just wanted to know if there is a slight of feeling like disappointment maybe in God when you first time heard about this or you have to go through this. Have you ever felt like, why?
The question of why is there, right? We wonder why me? I mean, in 2021, I was 29 years old, right? That was during my prime time. I thought I was going to start something new, something exciting. I've been accumulating a lot of experience. So why suddenly cancer? And I'm not saying, it's not just about me, right? I think a lot of people, at one point in their life, they will face something hard like this, and they will ask themselves, why? Why me? And I think for me, cancer was that why me? And yes, I questioned God. At the same time, throughout this journey, it really changes my perspective of of God, because at first I hate the fact that I have cancer, but now I realize that cancer has been quite a blessing for me. Why? Because now I have this like close relationship with God that I thought that I never have. I mean, I pray to God, but I've never been so intimate compared to now that I have, because now I rely on God more and more. And the intimacy that I have with God has been giving me comfort, giving me peace more than I have before.
Wow, that's so beautiful to hear. It's real. Even like God will meet us in our hardest time, and I think sometimes like we do like to. It's hard for us to accept the hard things in life, but that's where when we truly see God's grace in our life. So does the challenge stop there? Like, does the cancer stop there or like how does the treatment goes? And yeah.
No, I mean, I'm still fighting lung cancer up until now. I mean, the fact that I'm wearing a hat, the fact that I'm losing my voice, that's all because of cancer. And yeah, I think, after surrendering, and I think a lot of people will face the same thing, right? When they face problem, once they said, okay, God, I trust you, I give everything to you, God. Suddenly you were expecting miracles to happen. Maybe in 1 or 2 months or 3 months, or maybe a year. But for me, it's been like 2.5, almost 2 years that I'm fighting cancer. Yeah, I've been reading Bible a lot. I've been reading God's words, and they're pretty. They're like giving me comfort, but yet at the same time, those words uh, sometimes you start doubting those words. Why? Because you're not healthy yet. The pain is still there. The confusion is still there. Uh, the longing is still there, right? And I think this is the journey. I think the second part of the journey. The first part was surrendering, but I think the second part is more like making sense of God's promises. God's words has been supporting me a lot, but one thing that has been giving me more power is really having this intimacy with God. And I want to emphasize this a lot, right? What do I mean by intimacy? I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I think next few slides, I think it will just be more about pointing God's character, right? For example, here God is saying, hey, I am a good father and I can give you good gifts, right? I know my God is a loving God. I mean, how do I know? I mean, he died for all of us while we were still sinners, right? So he's a loving God. He knows how to give good gifts. He cares a lot about us. He cares about the birds and the people, all his creations. And of course, he will care about me too. Next slide. Another one is God works for the good of those who love him, which is I love God, and I know God will also love me too, and he will work for me. Learning more about God has given me understanding that God is there for me. The part that I want to emphasize here is that all this promise suddenly become more real to me. It becomes, it's not just words anymore, because I know God's character. And because I know God, I know God's character because the intimacy that I have with God, right? Praying to God, trying to understand God, trying to learn about God's character. Just an example, right? If, for example, someone said like this, hey, I am not going to be late, but the person is always late, right? You will know that he will not come on time. Or, for example, if the person said, hey, I will be... Is it? Okay, that's okay. Or, for example, if the person is always on time and he said he'll be on time, we know for sure that he'll be on time. So what I'm trying to say is his words becomes more real if we know the character of the persons. And for me, God's promises becomes real to me only because I know God's characters more. And that is through intimacy and relationship that I've been building throughout this time. And that has been quite powerful. What is the implication of knowing God's character then? The implication is that now his promise is real, now that I don't doubt his words anymore. Suddenly my faith is stronger, even through any point in time. For example, I mean, just a month ago, I was like very healthy. I think a lot of people here are like, who are preparing for this event. When they asked me, hey, can you talk? I said, yes, I can talk. That's because I assumed that I was very healthy. But suddenly, just like about like 3 weeks ago, my health went down. Suddenly, there's like a spread in my lung cancer to my trachea, which I think pressured my windpipe. So now suddenly like it's really hard for me to talk, or like I lost my voice. But even during those time, I'm not worried because I know God is still in control. Because I know all His promises is something that like it's not just pretty words anymore, but it's something that I hold dearly as real.
Wow, that's so beautiful just to see how even just from the beginning of like your journey of like you're trying to be in control, and now to see that God is fully in control and that you are trusting God's promises, making sense of God's promises in your life. I think that's a beautiful thing for us to be able to know the Lord dearly, even through situations like this. But maybe I just wanted to ask of like whether in this kind of situations, what's your thoughts on like maybe future plans? I know like maybe it's hard sometimes to think of far away, but yeah, I'm just curious of like, is there any thoughts in mind or yeah?
I mean, for someone having lung cancer, future is something that is very hard to imagine now, right? Uh, Cancer and also my journey, my spiritual journey with God has taught me a lot about staying to be in the presence, being with my family, really just enjoying and being grateful for the love that I have from my friends, from my family, you know, the support that I receive from everyone, right? Like, you know, I mean, like a lot of people who are in the workplace, in the marketplace, we tend to try to control everything. We try to project ourselves 10 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead. But for me, now, I need to be satisfied with just one step ahead and surrendering everything to God. It is not an easiest thing to do, right? Surrendering everything to God. Sometimes you just I want to be in control. I want to know everything first. I want to picture everything so I know where I'm going. But here I am, I guess being forced, but at the same time also being nurtured so that I can really trust God more. Just looking at one step ahead, being grateful for it, right? Even through my weakness, right? I do want to share this. I think next slide. Sorry, next slide. Right. So when you talk about the future, you know, people talk a lot about like the medications. Like, you know, what about like future medication? What about future doctor? Maybe you should go somewhere else. Maybe go to Japan, go to America again, or things like that. Right now, I am in that point where, you know, I trust God more than any of the things that's going to come to me. A lot of the medications, a lot of doctors, a lot of the drugs, diets, they all failed me because like right now I'm still suffering from cancer. But yet at the same time, this journey has been giving me comfort and peace that I can only receive through God, right? So even though I am weak, maybe next slide. Next slide, sorry, next slide. Yeah, and then like maybe for me, even though I am still weak, maybe I'm still like suffering, I'm not really worried because I feel that maybe God can use me, you know, through my weakness, God make me perfect. Maybe I can glorify God through the things that I will do while I am still sick, while I'm still suffering. And I hope that people can also see that, especially in their life, in their work, and also in their hardship.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's such an encouragement. Maybe now I just wanted to ask more deeper questions, which I'm actually also scared to ask. But have you ever thought of like, what if everything doesn't work? And yeah, how does that entails you?
That's a very interesting questions, right? People talk to me and ask me like, what if, for example, everything will not work? What if, for example, I mean, I will just say to you, what happened if you will die? And, you know, I want to return the question back because what do you mean if it doesn't work? Because for me, everything has been working. For me, going through this journey, I mean, before having cancer, how much time have I spent with God? How much time have I feel at peace? You know, even during this time, I feel love. There are so many friends coming to me. My family are there for me. You know, even through hardship, they're always there. I mean, isn't that is something that like what we want? Isn't that something that what I really want? Right? So I don't know about the future, but I know for sure that everything that's happening right now is already working because of God. God has been playing a huge role in my recovery phase, not just through physical, but also emotional and mental. And I am very blessed because of that. And I'm not worried anymore. I'm not scared about the future. And that is, even though like, you know, people will start asking again, yeah, but like, you know, what about your family? What will they think about your future? I mean, in the end, I'm not God. I surrender everything to God. And by surrendering everything to God, God has made me peace. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a huge, huge encouragement for all of us to hear, to see, especially to see how God is walking with you throughout this journey. And I think last questions, because we are running out of time, it's how have the community supported you? And also maybe one last thing that you wanted to share to everyone's here.
Yeah, I think the community has been there for me throughout my journeys. I mean, not just like Resource Global, like the church that I'm in. Like, you know, there's like a lot of wonderful people who are there for me, right? And I think I do want to tell this. I think people might like, you know, underestimate the power of prayer. But for me, prayer is super important. Just imagine this, like, you know, when you are in trouble, you pray to God. So when they said, hey, I will pray for you, they take my problem and they pray to their God. I thought that's like one of the most wonderful thing that people have done for me. So that's how people have been supporting me, and I'm very grateful for that. And maybe just key points, right, for people. Of course, not all of you will fight cancer. Hopefully never, right? It's a painful thing. But I do know people are all facing hardships, maybe in their life, maybe in their workplace. And sometimes, like, you know, going to God's words, sometimes you want just to believe that. And I do want to tell people, yes, you can believe in God's words by knowing God more, by trying to be intimate with God. Because the more you know about God's character, the more you know about God, suddenly all his words becomes real to you. It's just there that like you know for sure that you will not doubt that words anymore.
Thank you so much, Darius, again, to that you share your story to us today. I think for me personally, I learned a lot about God's faithfulness in our lives, and maybe oftentimes we through suffering. But yeah, thank you again, and I hope all of us here will continue to pray for you, and will walk with you in this journey.